let's just transition right into our sell.
Boom, sell. Allen Robinson.
He's right on the line right now.
Yeah.
Like, you're saying he's a buy. I'm going to go ahead and say he's a sell.
Boom, we
which is
disagree.
just
There
going to
you go.
confuse anybody who is listening to this right now, especially if they own Allen Robinson. They're like, so what should I do?
What do I
Should
do
I
with
sell him?
him?
Should I keep him?
The real answer is drop him then.
Yeah, just drop him.
cut
Just
him.
drop him to the waiver. You don't want to deal with him anymore, putting up these subpar weeks.
No.
But generally, when you're looking at players, you're looking at obviously you're looking at their usage. He's still being utilized,
Yeah.
so he has that going for him. But you're looking for players that are putting up production even without touchdown production.
Yeah.
You're looking for the running backs and the wide receivers that are getting you 10 points without even scoring a touchdown, which is what Lamar Miller was doing before he exploded this last week.
Yeah.
And Allen Robinson hasn't even been that. What I just said, he's yet to go over 60 yards since week 1, and we're going into week 7. Those are Eddie Royal numbers. Those you can go out and pick up a wide receiver on the waiver wire that will give you 50 yards in a game,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
Terrence Williams right there.
It
Well,
is.
The list goes on and on, but the thing that's saving him is his touchdown, or that saved him for 2 weeks were his touchdown numbers. He scored 2 touchdowns against Baltimore and then 1 touchdown against Indy, and that's it. So those are the only 2 weeks he's gone over 7 points, or over 7.2 points, which is what he had in week 1. So Allen Robinson, because he's still Allen Robinson, I'm going to try to get something for him now.
Boom.
Because,
That makes sense.
hey, think about it. If he goes out against Oakland and doesn't perform, then you're in trouble.
Yeah. Then it's too late.
Then you're sitting there thinking, like, maybe he's not that good. And Blake Bortles has not looked good, guys. He really hasn't. I know he can still produce, like, startable fantasy quarterback numbers, but if you watch him play the game, he inspires zero confidence.
Yeah.
Like, his throwing motion looks like, mechanically, there's so much wrong with what he does when he's throwing the ball. He's like throwing the ball. He does this weird thing where he like lifts up one of his right foot, I think it is, and like jump throws the ball like he's a shortstop in the MLB, and he's just like
And that doesn't work?
the ball in the hole, and he's like jumping and throwing the ball when he's not even under pressure. And I'm watching him play the game in Chicago, and I'm thinking, what are you doing, Blake? This is terrible. But yeah, I would sell Allen Robinson. With that long diatribe, I've disconvinced myself to keep the sell.
Well, there we go.
And
We're on opposite sides.
Yeah, we're on opposite sides of the fence on this one. The sad thing was when I went into that, I was trying to like back up the narrative that he was a buy.
You
And then
couldn't
I
come
was
up with
looking at
it.
his numbers. I'm like, wait a minute. Everything I'm saying indicates that he's a sell, in my opinion. So yeah, go out and sell Allen Robinson.
Well, there we go. We'll see who's right. We'll revisit this next week, and one of us will be in tears about it, and then that'll settle it.
Well, so far my track record has been better, so let's just go out. And
I don't know what that has to do with that. Doesn't sound
Spencer Ware, I think, comes to mind right away.
right. And with what?
Hey,
We never said him as a buy or a sell.
I'm just saying as a player in general.
Oh, doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. All right, let's move on to our next sell.
We should also tell the people out there that so far through the course of this young
Oh,
season,
God, here we go.
I have gone up against Leo head-to-head in 2 different matchups, and I have won them both. So
I need to no, this is true. I'm not going to deny it. I need to point out in both of these matchups, I made a start-sit decision that lost me the matchup. So I'm really going to say he didn't beat me. I beat myself. In one of them, I was going to pick up Hunter Henry, and then I got lazy and I didn't. The MILF Hunter, and then you did it a day later. In fact, I think what happened is I was going to pick him up. We recorded the episode where I said, hey, Hunter Henry this week, and then you went and picked him up, and you beat me by like 5 points or something, which would have made the difference if I had Hunter Henry. And then this
beat you by
one,
like 10 plus, but
whatever
your
it was.
tight end like literally did nothing.
Yeah,
so
I was like
Hunter.
my last Dwayne Allen week. I was like, all right, I'm done Dwayne Allen. We're done here. But this last week was like the tilt into the stratosphere one. Guys, I lost by 0.1 point. This final score is 88.5 to 88.4. Like what? How does this happen? Like I was hoping for a stat correction. It's not gonna happen now. It's over. I've lost. It's done. And like, it was so maddening because the whole process, like, you came out of Thursday night and Demaryius Thomas had done nothing, and I was like, I feel good about this. And then like the whole games were progressing, and like I went into Sunday night up by like 35 points. I was like, all right, well, as long as Lamar Miller doesn't have a beast game, I'll feel pretty good. And he drops 30 points. I was like, all right, I lost. And then we have John Brown doing nothing until the final drive, where the Cardinals have no reason to be throwing on this drive. They're up 21-3. The Jets are cooked. They should just be running the ball, but because of the Cardinals and Bruce Arians is this petulant child that can't help but run up the score when he has the chance, they throw it to John Brown 8 times on that drive. Oh, I remember I'm driving home, and I'm looking at my phone, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm still winning by...
Hold on, you're driving home while looking at your phone?
Yeah, no, this was very dangerous. I should be in jail right now. Right. And I'm looking at my phone while I'm driving, and I'm up by 1.2 points. I'm like, all right, well, as long, he needs 13 more yards. John Brown's not going to get it. The next play was a 13-yard catch by John Brown. And I crashed my car, drove it off a bridge. I'm a ghost. And like, I don't know if you've ever lost right by 0.1 points, but you start really thinking about everything that happened during the week. Like I made a bad, I dropped Mariota for, Dak Prescott. Obviously Dak had a nice game. He had 20 points. Didn't matter. Mariota had 30. And then I was going to start Jamal over Carlos Hyde just because you hate Jamal. And I was like, you know what? Now's my time. And I didn't do it. But then I think about every play that happened during the entire weekend of there was the 4th and 1 in the Rams game where 99% of the time Jeff Fisher kicks a field goal. He's like, you know what? This time we're going to go for it. And they give the ball to Gurley. He's immediately met in the backfield, loses 2 yards. If they don't do that, I win by 0.1 points. And I was like, all these plays where it was just a couple more yards here. Man, it's been like an existential crisis going through this loss. Yeah.
Now, to be fair, I'm just gonna go out. I'm gonna give you an example, a mistake that I made.
Okay.
That it would have bolstered my score. And the reason why I made this mistake is because I'm a Raider fan.
Oh.
So I needed the morning of, I needed to pick up a defense.
Uh-huh.
So I was looking at the defenses, and I clicked on Kansas City. I was about to add them, and then I realized that I wouldn't enjoy watching the game if I needed the defense to perform. And I didn't want that on my plate. I hate the mixed love affair with your real NFL team and your fantasy team.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not going to pick up Kansas City. I mean, the game, if you looked at it, the weather was terrible. It was shaping up to be a great defense, either Oakland or Kansas City. Both of them I was like, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go out and pick up New York because they're playing at home against Baltimore, who doesn't have Steve Smith, who has a banged-up Mike Wallace. I'm still not buying Terrence West at this point. And they put up 1 point. Kansas City had 11 points. So if I would have lost by anything between the 1 to 10 point range, I would have lost it myself. I would have been like, what was wrong with me?
Yeah.
Why did I do it?
Welcome to my life. The Jamal over Hyde, the reason I didn't do it, I was like, well, in a vacuum, that's a bad move, so I'm not going to do it. So I actually, I feel fine about benching Jamal. That was, objectively the right choice. But, Dak over Mariota, that was just, a last-second, gut, probably just, overthinking it, which is you know what? No. Swapping him out, putting in Dak, I've decided he's safer. And then I lost because of that move. Woo, I couldn't get past Mariota's, his stat line before was 160 yards and 3 touchdowns. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't look reproducible. I can't trust this in the most important matchup of the millennia. And and then here's what happened.
I think we're gonna have to just cut this segment out and blast it. Just Leo rages over losing by 0.1 points. And actually, I was watching that. I watched the whole Texans game thinking to myself, you know what? I need Lamar Miller to go absolutely nuclear. And what I wanted from him was to bring the score within 15.
Yeah.
I was like, if he can get the score within 15, then there's a chance that John Brown catches a long touchdown and I can win this game. But then he just kept on getting yards. And then that last touchdown he scored where he caught the pass and then danced around half the field. I thought he was stuffed at the 7. I was like, at least he got a couple. Wait, he's still up? Oh, Lamar Miller. And then he just danced his way into the end zone and started doing his dance. And then I got up with him and I started doing the dance too. I was like, oh shit, I'm only behind by 5.3 points. And then the Monday night game happened and I was sitting there is this for real? Are they just not throwing the ball at all? And I was resigned to losing the game, just like you said. I was like, John Brown has one catch for 7 yards. There's no way he gets 50 or 47 more yards in one drive, and that's exactly what
That's
happened.
exactly what, like, I would have preferred if he just, like, caught a long touchdown and I lost by, like, 5 points. I'd be like, it just wasn't there for me. But losing by the exact amount is like, what is the message you're sending me, fantasy god? There's a message here and I don't know what it is. Like, there's something I'm supposed to be learning and I don't know. Don't trust Dak, but Dak was good. Don't not trust Mariota. I don't believe that. I don't believe that for one bit.
It's all about Smokey Brown. Trust that Smokey Brown will give you exactly
He put
what
up
you need.
5 points. We haven't even, like, talked about, even off air,
That's
how,
because
like,
he knew. He knew that I
You
only
know?
needed 5.4 points. So he was like, I'm going to go out and give you 54 yards. That's all you need from me. I'm not
Yeah.
going to overextend myself. Actually, I was looking at some tweets and everything, which is unfortunate for all the John Brown love that we give him. But it seems like Arizona has completely – they've had an identity shift to just back up David Johnson, because I was reading tweets that John Brown was actually, like, super open
Yeah, I was
a
seeing
lot
that
of the
too.
time early in the game. Like, if Carson Palmer would have pushed the ball down the field, he could have hit Brown early in the game, but their identity was just to let David Johnson run wild, just feed David Johnson. And I don't know if the identity shift is because David Johnson's so good, or if they really feel that Carson Palmer's regressing a little bit and he doesn't have the skill set to air it out. Because Bruce Arians has always been like this, let's bomb the other team with these long passes.
We haven't seen that. Yeah.
You haven't seen it this season, and I mean, unfortunately, I think that means that John Brown is going to take a little bit of a value hit moving forward,
Yeah.
unless somehow Carson Palmer regains his form. I mean, geez,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was a rough week for our two, like, flag players of the offseason, John Brown and Tyler Lockett. John Brown at least did something. Tyler Lockett, I was like, oh, never mind. Because Tyler Lockett's not happening this year. This is over.
What was his final line?
Wait, let me see. Let me pull this up. It was 2.5 points.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
At least he didn't put up a goose egg.
no, but it's like, he looks slow still. He's clearly not healthy, playing through a torn PCL. I, like, tweeted at, like, an injury expert, being like, what can you tell me about this torn PCL in Tyler Lockett? And they're like, well, the timetable is unclear. It can be like a few weeks to a few months. And the fact that he's playing through it is, like, not great for his recovery. It's like, cool. So this is probably the rest of his season.
Yeah.
And, he's at this point at best, like, the number 3 target on this offense. Like, that's probably not happening for Lockett. Like, maybe, who knows? I guess he's not bad on the end of your bench if you have a deep bench and there's no one else to pick up. Yeah,
We just picked him up in one of our leagues. So.
and that one is fine because the benches are, like, crazy deep. So it's like, sure, why not? Like, his upside is higher than, like, anyone else on the wire, so might as well keep him there, see if something develops. But in a regular league, like, he's pretty much droppable.
I love how
Sad to say.
I love how your rant about losing by 0.1 just completely derailed this segment right now. This was supposed to be the sell section, right?
Well, who are we selling right then? I don't even remember who we brought up.
That just tells you how far off topic we went. Yeah, so
God.
we're selling. The first sell was Allen Robinson.
All right, the buy that
that's
turned
right.
into a sell.
The buy that turned into a sell, Allen Robinson. That's
Allen
the title of the
Robinson,
episode right
sure.
there.
I
Buy
mean-
that turned into a sell.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just move on to a new player.
Okay.
I want to talk about, because his name was
Let's
brought
hear
up somewhere during that rant, and now I want to throw him out. He's a soft sell, but if you have him, shop him around. Spencer Ware of the Kansas City Chiefs football team. He was very good in the game against Oakland. If you look at the actual quarter-by-quarter split, he was in a 50-50 split until the fourth quarter when they started resting Jamal, and they decided to just salt the clock away with Ware against a defeated and broken Raiders defense. And he did it. He salted. And most of his yardage came on, like, a big run, which was a good run. I'm not trying to take away from the run, but that's I don't know if I'm convinced that that's, like, a regular part of Spencer Ware's game. I don't know. Maybe it is. But the real concern with him is that we don't really know what the share of this backfield is going to be. He dominated the touches this week, but Jamal figures to get more and more involved. And I think best case scenario for him is like a 50-50 split. Like, even I'm trying to imagine a scenario where he ends up the lead back with like 60+% of the touches, and it would have to be like Jamal gets re-injured or he's like a complete shell of himself. And even Jamal in his first real game back looked good enough that that's not going to be the case. Even if this is the Jamal we have the rest of the year, he's still probably going to garner at least close to half the carries.
Yeah.
So he's only getting like half of the workload. He produced in a great matchup, which is good. But we saw what Ware was for the first 4 games with basically half. He had more than half the workload when it was West there, and he really only had one great game. The rest of the games were kind of so-so.
Well, he went over 100 yards in every single game.
Right. I don't mean like so-so as a running back. Like the Chiefs were very happy. I mean so-so from a fantasy perspective. Okay. Like maybe the touchdowns weren't there. I know that with that one Jets game where he had like the touchdown that turned into a fumble, and that was like the most tilting thing ever. It's I started him that week. It's like, this is great. I'm really happy this happened. But we've seen him with a bigger workload, and he hasn't been an RB1. He has been like on some weeks, but not consistently. But the difference is coming off of this huge game, Jamal didn't really produce that much. You might be able to spin him as like, he's like a low-end RB1. Look how soft his schedule is. He gets the Saints, and he gets the Colts after that. This is the time. And you can probably flip him for that. And so you're probably thinking, Leo, why don't you just hold him then? He gets the Saints this week. Why don't you sell him after that? Or even wait 2 weeks and sell him after the Saints and the Colts? Well, we don't...
Leo, why don't you just wait until after the Saints?
Why don't you just wait until after the Saints? Because we don't know what the workload's going to be this week at all. We literally have no idea. The coaching staff hasn't said anything. They haven't even said that what they did in Oakland is what they plan to do moving forward. Like, all they said was, Ware played well. We liked what we saw to Jamal. We're going to ease Jamal in. Which means basically
sprinkle
nothing.
I think that was what they said before. They're gonna sprinkle them.
They're gonna sprinkle them. Yeah. So we have no idea what the usage is gonna be. It's possible. I don't know. I don't think it's the most probable thing, but it's possible. Jamal comes out and he ends up the lead guy. Maybe not to start the game. Maybe he runs away with it. It's not impossible. And so I think that coming off of this monster 20+ point game, you're playing with fire if you try to like push it and be like, you know what? I'm gonna wait till he has another big week. And maybe even another one after that. Because all it takes...
And another one.
And another one.
And another one.
All it takes is one game where he doesn't get in the end zone. And, he gets, 15 touches. Maybe he averages close to 5 yards a carry. And he ends up with, like, 60 to 7... Yeah, like 6 or 7 points. Yeah, like that's... At that point, no one is paying up for him because his name isn't really worth anything, Like, he's been a nice story. And he's very, very talented running back. None of this is to insult him. I kind of see Spencer Ware as like a similar to Christine Michael, maybe a little better. But that kind of athlete where like he can flash these big plays, but he needs a big workload and a good offense to kind of capitalize on it. He's not so elite that regardless of what's around him, he's going to produce. He's not David Johnson, apparently. So for me, I think you could probably sell him as this like high-end RB2, maybe low-end RB1 to like a running back desperate team. But yeah, Jamal's cooks. Look, he came back and Ware was still the guy. Because I think it's unlikely it's like that going forward.
Well, I mean, technically he is an RB1. He's an RB12 right now. So
there you go.
Through
6
6
even
weeks,
easier.
he's an RB1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you guys have tuned in, have watched our takes on the Kansas City backfield, you probably know that I love Spencer Ware. I'm not gonna hide my Spencer Ware love, but I will agree with Leo in this circumstance. I think if you can sell Ware, you sell him.
Yeah.
Because even if this backfield is a 50-50 split, even if Ware has been good enough where the coaching staff says, okay, you have a role, you're still dealing with a split backfield where you don't know who's going to go off. You're basically going to be stuck in the same situation you are with Cincinnati, which is already maddening enough.
Yeah, or like Atlanta's probably a good comparison too.
Atlanta's a better comparison. But that you might miss completely, right? If you have Spencer Ware and you're thinking, okay, well, he's been good, I'm going to play him, and then, like you said, he doesn't have a great week. It would be a frustrating thing to be a part of. And right now, he has a lot of value.
Yeah.
He does. He has a lot of value because of the fact that I think people are still questioning Jamal Charles right now. I think because of the way that the season's played out, right? And remember, he was supposed to play in week 2.
Yeah.
Jamal Charles was. And look how far things have gone.
Yeah.
Right for him since then. You know, he was out week 2 and then, he'll be back week 3 for sure. Not back week 3. And then finally in week 4, he got his 2 carries, and he had a full 2 weeks. And I think everyone thought that he would come out against Oakland and be the guy
Yeah.
until the coaching staff came out, a couple of days before the Oakland game, and they're like, you know what, we're just gonna sprinkle him in this week. And then everyone was like, what? Why?
Why are you doing that? He should be healthy, right?
He said 2 weeks since
Yeah.
he actually played a game against Pittsburgh. Now, that being said, I think there is a world where Spencer Ware gets more usage than Jamal Charles.
Yeah, that's definitely. I didn't say it was impossible. It's definitely
Yeah.
possible.
But I think it's still not going to be enough where
Yeah.
you can throw him out there every week as a surefire starter. Maybe as a flex play, but not as a surefire starter. And I think you can sell him as a surefire starter right now.
Yeah.
So go out and see what you can get for Spencer Ware. He's definitely someone you could sell to a different team that needs a running back for these buy lows that we're talking about. Or as part of a package to get somebody like a Mike Evans that we've been talking about before. If you can trade a wide receiver plus Spencer Ware and get Mike Evans, woo, sign me up.
You know what deal I would do to get Mike Evans right now if I own these 2 players? And let's be clear, if you own Ware and Charles, don't sell Ware. Because at that point, you want to see how the whole backfield shakes out. Because if one of them doesn't have the lead guy, then you might as well wait. This is more if you only own Ware. But if I own Ware and Brandon Cooks coming off a big game, I would sell that package for Mike Evans.
Or Marvin Jones.
That's a good one too. Marvin Jones and Spencer Ware. Yeah.
Marvin Jones and Spencer Ware, because Marvin Jones we're talking about sells, right?
Yeah.
Let's just transition right into Marvin Jones.
Here we go.
He's part of this narrative.
Yeah.
Right? Because he had that monster game, because he has been scoring touchdowns. He has 4 touchdowns on the year. And I feel like people are still high off of the euphoria of that Green Bay game, because the narrative that his overall target share has gone completely down since that game. We haven't seen too much of it online. Nobody's really talking about it. I mean, I've seen it here and there, but I haven't seen oh shit, they are not utilizing Marvin Jones like we thought they would. If you look at his numbers after that, I mean, he had a 200-yard game with 2 touchdowns against Green Bay, which is ridiculous, right? Those Jay Ajayi numbers.
Ajayi.
But then after that, 5 catches, respectable 74 yards. And then in his last 2 weeks, guys, these are 2 full games. He's had 47 receiving yards. That's over 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's bad.
Now, you look at his numbers, though, and this is what's saving you a little bit. He also scored touchdowns both of those games. So look at his stat line. Against Philly in week 5, he had 4 catches for 37 yards. That's ugly, right?
Yeah.
But he had a touchdown, so he has 9.7 points. Last week against LA, even uglier. 2 catches for 10 yards and a touchdown. So his totals go up to 7.3 fantasy points. So his numbers are still good enough that you can get value for him now. And people are still going to look at his overall yearly totals and see that, he went monster the first 3 weeks of the season. He was the wide receiver 1 after week 3. And 3 weeks have gone by, and he is still ranked. And I think he's still top 5 at his position, even though he's had 3 down weeks in a row. Let me just double check that. I'm pretty sure I think he's top 3. That's insane. Is he he's the wide receiver 3 right now?
Yeah,
Am I looking at this correctly?
Yeah, because the sample size is small still. We're only 6 weeks in, and that week 3 was so big, it's just buoying his entire stat line.
Yeah, that's insane. I didn't realize he was that. Okay, so he's a wide receiver 3 right now.
Yeah.
But he's a definite sell.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably wide receiver 2 the rest of the way, one of those middle wide receiver 2 guys. But you can sell him not as the wide receiver 3, but as a wide receiver 1. I bet people are probably buying.
Yeah.
And the targets are Golden Tate out-targeted him this last game. And the game before that, their targets were the same. This offense is sort of adjusting to what it is normally, which is, Tate gets a lot of targets on the short and intermediate, and Marvin is going to be a touchdown and big play dependent guy, which is nothing wrong with owning a guy like that. But right now the perception is still he's this high end wide receiver, and you could sell him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, back to the package we were talking about,
Hmm.
Marvin Jones and Spencer Ware from Mike Evans. Yes, please
Yeah,
sign me up.
I would definitely do
Yeah.
that.
So yeah, Marvin Jones has seen 46 targets over 6 weeks. It's not bad, right? It's not
Hmm.
amazing. It's just under 8 targets a game he's averaging. But then you look at what Golden Tate did last week, and remember, a couple weeks ago, the Lions came out and they said that okay, the way we're utilizing Golden Tate is not how we want to utilize him. We want to get him more involved.
Hmm.
Uh, and last week he was the guy there. They were feeding him the ball. And the thing that you should be slightly concerned about if you own Marvin Jones was that they had clear roles going into the game last week. Marvin Jones was a guy that will get you that long touchdown if you need it, right? Golden Tate is this, he catches the ball near the line of scrimmage and he depends on his yards after the catch. Like if he can catch the ball and run with it, then Golden Tate's going to be, okay. But if you look at Golden Tate's career numbers, he's actually been more effective when he is utilized as a downfield receiver, going back to when he was in Seattle, I believe. Um,
Hmm.
and that's how he was utilized last week. Okay, he caught balls down the field. He caught balls on intermediate routes where he could catch the ball and then run. And then he caught balls near the line of scrimmage. So he was kind of the complete package. But he's only seen 6 fewer targets than Marvin Jones over the course of 6 weeks. So yeah, Marvin Jones is a sell for me. I think
Yeah.
we're going to start to see Golden Tate emerge a little bit, and it's going to go back to that 1A, 1B situation in Detroit because through the first 5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, it was all Marvin Jones. Tate wasn't doing anything. So it was like, okay, Marvin Jones is the one. He's the clear one. Golden Tate is the two or maybe the three. People were really low on Golden Tate, but I think we're going to see Tate kind of positively regress back to being like at least in the conversation with Marvin Jones,
Right.
and that already hurts Marvin Jones' value. So I think you have to take advantage of what he's done so far, being the wide receiver 3 after 6 weeks, and sell him now.
I am with you on that for sure. Let's move on to probably our last sell, and that is we mentioned him earlier briefly.
Yeah. Is that Jay Ajayi?
Yes,
By any
Dolphins running
chance?
back Ajayi.
Jay Ajayi now went absolutely nuclear in a game that nobody expected him to go nuclear in. Okay. This was like one of those weird situations, probably a frustrating situation for whoever owns Jay Ajayi. I can't see a scenario where anybody started Jay Ajayi last week. I mean, he blew up on everybody's bench. I don't know what type of situation you would have had to be in to start Jay Ajayi last week against Pittsburgh, but with the news that Arian Foster was back as well, I mean, that would have been a crazy start.
Yeah.
So nobody really benefited from that, and you have to think that, 32 points, is that Jay Ajayi? Is that really Jay Ajayi? No, obviously it's not. That's nobody except David Johnson, apparently. But he had basically done very little before that. Now, he had been operating as a lead back in Arian Foster's absence. But Arian Foster's back now. He's practicing in full this week. Last week, he was kind of limited. He was more of a game-time decision. And I think it came down to, I think the reports were that he would go out pregame and test how he felt and then decide if he was going to play. So already it was a very questionable situation for Arian Foster last week. And the usage showed it. He was barely involved in the offense. It was all Jay Ajayi. This week, Arian Foster's practicing in full. He's going to be a part of the offense. Now, the thing with Arian Foster is that he always gets hurt. But Jay Ajayi right now, my gosh, 32 points. You can sell that.
Yeah, I mean, people aren't going to buy that he's like an RB1 or anything like that, but they're going to see it, and there's a narrative you can spin of like, yeah, like even though Foster's back, like they realize they can't lean on him, he's too injury prone, Ajayi's the lead back, and Foster's just like the complimentary back. And this is like not even just like a pulling out of my butt narrative. You can like, there are lots of articles that I've seen like get posted in the last couple of days with that kind of thing. Like, is Ajayi the lead back now? And I don't think he is. And so like even if they like decide to do some research on this, they'll probably stumble across that narrative. Yeah. And you can use that to your advantage Because, if you say, well, he's probably the lead guy now, and even though he's not going to put up 32 points regularly, he's probably like a RB2 the rest of the way, which I don't think he's even that. You could probably still sell him as that, which I would do. What would you take for Ajayi?
What would I take for Ajayi? Well, I think realistically, he's somebody that I wouldn't try to trade by himself. I think I would add him. I would try to use his 32 points as part of a package. But if I was taking a 1-for-1, obviously, again, we've mentioned this before, it wouldn't really make sense for an opposing owner to trade a running back to you.
Right.
Like, if I could trade Ajayi for a better running back, I would.
Sure.
But I just don't really see that happening in a trade situation. So I'd be looking at wide receivers. I would trade Ajayi for... Well, Michael Thomas. I would trade Ajayi. And Michael Thomas, now that's probably pretty low because Michael Thomas was on the waiver wire last week in a lot of leagues. He's been picked up now, but just watching the Saints games, the way they're utilizing Michael Thomas, I think a lot of people that picked Michael Thomas up are going to be very pleased with his production. He's gotten into the end zone the last 3 weeks, and he is clearly ahead of Willie Snead now in the pecking order.
Yeah, the Snead thing is over.
Yeah, the Snead thing is basically non-existent. And, who was the guy that Breeze always looked to who's no longer part of the offense? That role in the offense?
Colston.
Who is it? Marcus Colston, baby.
Boom.
And that's basically what Michael Thomas is right now. He's playing the Marcus Colston role. So I kind of like Michael Thomas the rest of the year, and I'm kind of a little bit annoyed that you picked him up in one of our leagues.
I'm surprised you even dropped him last week. I was like, oh, he's out here. I'll go grab him. I would definitely do that trade.
Yeah, just because, that's if you need a wide receiver. For me, Ajayi, he's not a hard sell yet.
No.
You would look at his 32 points and you might think he'd be a hard sell. If you really believe that he's not going to do anything the rest of the season, then you're trying to get rid of him for anything. But because of Arian Foster's injury history and because of how Adam Gase operates as a head coach, unless you're going to get something that you can use, he's a soft sell for me, Ajayi. Just because you look at Arian Foster, he gets hurt all the time. Okay, nobody can dispute that. You look at the narrative, or what's been happening with the Miami backfield, Adam Gase coming out and saying, like, okay, we need to find somebody we can lean on. That's basically what he said after the Cincinnati game, right? When they tried to roll out 4 different running backs, and it just did not work whatsoever. And then if you listen to what they were saying after that, news came out that, Kenyon Drake is not in shape whatsoever. Okay, he's pretty much out of the equation. Okay, so eliminate one possibility. Damian Williams is Damian Williams. Okay, he's basically not going to be more than a 3. That leaves Ajayi and Arian Foster, and I think Adam Gase got a little taste of what could happen if he just leans on one running back, right? If he gives a back a chance to kind of get into the flow of the game, because that's always the argument with these. Okay, committee keeps everyone fresh, but it doesn't give them a chance to really hit their stride. And oftentimes you see these backs really work opposing defenses into the ground, and then their yards per carry goes up in the third and fourth quarters because they've been grinding all game and they've had the chance to hit their stride. And that's exactly what happened in the Pittsburgh game. It was one of those weird performances where I would normally just write it off as like, okay, this will never happen again. But Pittsburgh doesn't have a terrible defense, a terrible rush defense at least. And he went nuclear on them. And if you look at how he earned a lot of his points, it was exactly that. He ground them. He wore them down.
Ground them and pound them.
Ground them and pound them. And then he ripped off a long run at the end of the game. Had a couple touchdowns. He might be somebody that, unless you're getting a usable piece, could be worth just hanging on to just to see if Arian Foster comes back and hurts himself again. Then it's basically Ajayi, and he's a startable running back.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, going back to what you said, not to completely go off, it's been kind of the name of the game with this podcast so far. That's the narrative you have to spin with Ajayi, right? So if
Yeah.
you are looking to sell him, you sell him hard. Like, okay, he's gonna be the guy, and that's how you have to shape your trade narrative. Like, look, he just went nuclear against Pittsburgh in a game that nobody thought. I mean, in a game where he went up against Le'Veon Bell, he was the better running back,
Hmm.
which is weird to say, but he was better than Bell in that game. Um, Arian Foster's an injury risk. He's going to be the guy. Gase has learned that he needs to lean on this back. You need to take him now, but you need to give me someone good.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm with you as a soft sell for sure. You know what trades I would do? Whereas, like, I would do the Michael Thomas one, but only if I was like really desperate for a wide receiver, because there is value on holding Ajayi.
Yeah.
But where I would be willing to do it this week is like Stephon Diggs coming off the injury. You might be able to get him straight up for Ajayi, or like Jimmy Graham, if you were like just like having an awful time streaming tight ends and you're like, you know what, I just want someone I can start every week. I think Jimmy Graham is probably going to be that guy the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Or like Doug Baldwin is someone I'm like low key trying to buy low on. Not someone that I would like recommend in this segment because I don't feel super confident in. I'm just kind of like poking around all the Doug Baldwin owners, because I think he's going to be better than the meager points he's put up in recent weeks. But that's probably the line where I'd be like, I'm willing to do this right now.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you kind of have to, again, we talk about this every week. You kind of have to look at what you need, what opposing owners need. That's how you always have to shape narrative.
Right.
You shouldn't really go after specific players per se, but you should be looking at specific needs. So before you even engage in trade talk, you should take a look at their roster, see, okay, this is what this team needs, and this is how I can exploit it in a trade narrative. It's very easy to do. There are so many teams that are running back needy right now. You look at their roster and you're wondering, like, how did this happen? Right? And all the leagues I'm in right now, I could go to a few teams and look at their roster and their starting running backs and say, like, what happened? How did you get in this position? Yeah. I know there have been injuries, but really the depth must have been non-existent to begin with because
drafted poorly and then managed poorly after that, really.
Yeah. So, somebody like Jay Ajayi, and when I say he's a soft sell, like, you don't just want to go out and give him away.
No.
And it might sound like trading him for Michael Thomas is a giveaway, but I'm pretty high on Mike Thomas.
Yeah, I am too.
But yeah, Jay Ajayi, you need to look for somebody. I think he's pretty easy to talk up as an asset right now.
Oh yeah.
And to a team that is struggling really badly, that can basically field a running back, but they're starting waiver wire scraps. They're starting Bobby Rainey, or they're starting Rashad Jennings as a running back one. It's just ugly, and you can sell Jay Ajayi to a team like that.
Yeah, a good place to start is like the Arian Foster owner. Go to them and see if they have any needs. In one of our leagues, I just went to the Arian Foster owners page just to like see they have Doug Baldwin and Jimmy Graham, and I would do either of those. Or like Julian Edelman has been like struggling, and I don't know if he's gonna bounce back, but I'd probably do that still, just off the chance that he does.
Yeah, I would do on a heartbeat. Now that Brady's back, he's slinging it.
You feel like the games are coming, they just haven't yet.
Yeah, and Edelman in the past has been Brady's like go-to guy. So, his red gloves. You can't say no to red gloves.
Can't say no to red gloves. Can't say no to red gloves. Anyway, where was I? All right, we can probably Jay Ajayi. We can probably wrap this up otherwise.
Yeah. All right, let's end it on Jay Ajayi. A player that I never thought I would have to mention during a sell segment, Jay Ajayi. But yeah,
no, never ever.
Here we are.
But here we are in this world, in this Week 7 world.
This Week 7 world, talking about Jay Ajayi as a sell.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent. Let's just end it.
Just end it. Boom. All right. Thanks for listening / watching. You can find us on Twitter at bench-ff or on Facebook with the same URL right above Derek there. So like, comment, subscribe, share, etc., etc. And I hope you never lose by 0.1 points, because it is literally the worst thing that's going to happen to you in your entire life. You'll never be able to shake it. You'll be sitting there during your child's first birth, and you'll just be thinking about, like, John Brown, why? Why, John Brown? Why did you do this to me? I thought we were friends.
Why?
Smokey, why? Who's hurt now? Why couldn't he get hurt? Why couldn't he get hurt last week? Why? You know, so don't let that happen to you. Be better.
And on the
be
flip
better
side,
than I
if
was.
you win by 0.1 points, it's just it's euphoric, baby.
It's euphoric. Woo! All right, that's a good place to wrap it up before you get a chance to celebrate. All right, we will catch y'all on the flippity floppity.